It's natural and healthy to own an animal.
I think it's an important role to like lift the animal to a higher state, and only the human can do that.
There was I remember listening to an argument between Jean-François Garipé,
Oh
the
God.
intellectual, uh, you know, alt right, and it was between him and um, Vegan Gains.
I don't know who that is.
Vegan Gains is like the destiny of vegan weightlifting bros, and he goes on and he debates anyone and everyone about the moral,
Like animal rights.
the moral case for veganism. And Jean-Francois was like, you know, but the chicken, it's happy. You know, and he was just like, the chicken as we know it is one of the most successful bird species ever in the history of birds because we eat it.
Yeah, so it'll never go extinct.
Yeah, it's happy. Like as a species, he goes because he's like, oh, they're like their DNA, their genes, super fucking happy. I don't care how the chicken feels, but it as a species is super fucking happy. And then they start debating about whether it's ethical to agree to be the pets of aliens and like being, he was like, would you want to be put in a zoo? And he's like, well, if they took over Earth, like, yeah. Yeah,
Internet
like,
debates are pretty terrible.
some of them are. Some of them are. He had on a theist.
Like most of the people aren't smart enough to be really effective, or shouldn't they not smart enough? They don't have a mastery of their material that's good enough, you know, on both sides to competently face off against each other in that kind of unstructured way, or that where you don't have much time to respond.
Yeah.
Like, I just think the quality of most of the arguers, even if it's sometimes someone really good who is kind of a master of their field, sometimes it's just not a good debate.
You think the podcast format is the new debate space?
I don't know. It might be the new Oprah space.
Yeah.
Like, is this just like a try hard Oprah show?
Joe Rogan has been called Oprah for dudes or bros. Oprah for bros.
Is that not what it is? Is that true?
It depends. Like everybody, you know, like the phrase "everybody has a podcast" is true.
Like, is this a talk show? I remember when I was, you know, growing up, I thought talk shows were dumb. But on Friday, when we got out of school early, you know, like Mari would be on or whatever by the time you got home, because you got home early that day. So you'd see some TV shows while you're having a snack that you haven't seen before. And like you'd see Mari, and there'd be all talk shows on all the channels. And
No,
was it not considered like a low grade form of entertainment?
sort of, but it wasn't like them doing. It wasn't quite journalism, and it wasn't quite trash like interviews. It was.
What about Montel?
Dude, Montel.
Kamala Harris was her girlfriend or boyfriend, or
yeah.
Wait, what did I say? Kamala.
She escorted him.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know exactly what you're trying to say, dude. Man, he walked in with two bitches on his arms. He was just like, "What up?"
Montel.
You know, what's it?
I don't remember. Was he like, you know, the trashy talk show with a heart, like Maury style, or was he more like highbrow, or more like sensitive, like Oprah, or was he like, or was it more Jerry Springer?
He was above Jerry Springer on the field. I think he was like.
Was he like above or below Maury?
He was above Maury, but only for a certain demographic.
Because Maury seems like he was really trying to help people.
No, he wasn't.
With DNA tests? Really trying to get to the truth.
Really? That's why he gave him a bunch of liquor backstage? So the news is easier for you to take. Don't you want to have a fucking couple? Don't you want to have a few before you get
They
the
did
news?
DNA tests and lie detector tests.
Yeah.
It's like, we're getting to the truth. When we come back from this break, we're going to hear the truth. We're going to have the results from the lie detector test.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have the DNA results.
Oh,
I have the DNA results in this envelope. And now a word from our sponsor.
And then it turns out he's just like, they'd have like the secret gay couple, and it was like the dude's wife. And she's like, I can't, like, she's always a little overweight and a little unattractive. And
what a scene.
Yeah. They'd be like, yeah.
So is this the equivalent of that?
Fuck no. Fuck no.
Oh, we're getting attacked by an animal. Speaking of which.
Oh, puppers.
Go upstairs. So the real reason we should be talking is because there's a few interesting things going on in the Canadian political sphere.
Sort of. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
We've gotten Bill C-11, C-21. We've had Jason Kenney win like we predicted. But were you shocked that he won? And were you shocked that he stepped down?
No, like, I mean, I don't.
You weren't shocked?
He won in the sense that there was a tiny sliver of a majority, but that's basically a loss.
Bare minimum.
Like, it's totally a loss. So that was totally to be expected, I think, for the most part. It came, I'm sure, as a surprise to him, because in his bubble world, he probably thinks he's he kept saying it. It's like basically a bunch of crazy yahoos that don't believe in science, and it's like 1% of our party. It's just loud, crazy people, but everyone else understands what I've done. And no, it's a huge. You have to be totally deluded to think it's a small group of opposition. So I'd say having 50% against you, basically like 50-50, is a horrible result. And
51.5.
It's basically 50-50.
No, so I still won. I'm magnanimous in my victory.
Well, but what good? Even if you say he won, what good is it? Because he had to step down because he had no credibility. So it's still a loss. Like,
yeah,
the end result is a loss. To win, you would need like 70% or more to have any kind of.
What did Klein step down on? 60%.
I think it was mid-50s or something.
Yeah, it was 55.
But so we have a leadership race in Alberta, which is probably the most interesting topic for today.
Yeah.
So there's some other Canadian stuff going on.
Not really.
We got this leadership leadership race. So it's actually interesting because, keep in mind, normally these are very boring and terrible and like
foregone as well, usually.
Yeah. Like last time we had 3 leadership candidates and one was basically a phony.
Well, no, one
so it was Kenney versus Jean, basically, right?
Yeah, and one no, there was 2. There was, because it was a 4-person panel, and one existed. That was my MOI or whatever. And he basically just, his job was to take out Jean, like to kneecap Jean.
So anyway, now there's like, it's a free for all. There's a ton of people in there, but it's interesting because we're getting a couple interesting issues put on the table. So the 2 biggest issues, in my opinion, for Alberta stuff, this is just me speaking personally, is whatever you want to call it, fair deal with Ottawa, and the virus thing. So,
well, it's only
no more virus stuff.
The fair deal is only an issue for one person.
Well,
has Jean even said the words?
But hang on. So those are the 2 big things for me, and that's so naturally I'm interested in what people say. So Jean, we should start with Danielle though.
Yeah.
So Danielle Smith says she's going to do Alberta Sovereignty Act. It seems pretty hardcore. And that's kind of like the most interesting topic of discussion. So obviously Alberta sovereignty or fair deal or like more independence yeah, that's interesting. And a lot of people are still into that. Like, the or not equilibrium, the equalization referendum, which Kenney has totally like not done anything about. In fact, he just kind of got us more entangled with Ottawa with the Trudeau's affordable childcare program. So he's basically, since that's happened, he's sold us out more to Ottawa. So anyway, people are mad about that, but that was it's like a 60-40 thing.
Yeah.
So the whole fair deal thing, whatever you think about it. So that's more of an interesting topic for this debate situation because Kenney's gone and now these people have to argue over it. So we've got Alberta Sovereignty Act from Danielle Smith. That would be her first thing, and that's pretty hardcore. It's basically unconstitutional on purpose, and it's meant to like just disregard or ignore or not enforce Ottawa's laws that are against Alberta interest or rights or whatever.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, the group that put out the plan, of which the Alberta Sovereignty Act was a part, did like a leadership forum. And I think they had almost all the leaders there. And basically, all of them were against the Alberta Sovereignty Act, except Danielle Smith.
Yeah.
So that makes her kind of interesting. Even like the people you'd think were the most hardcore were like, oh, no, we gotta, this is like too much.
Was Barnes there?
No, he's not a leadership candidate.
Oh.
The equivalent of him is Todd Loewen. He was kind of the anti-lockdown, one of the guys who got kicked out of the caucus.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of stepped more into the spotlight because he was pretty good on the virus problem, or at least giving kind of like a voice to that resistance, sort of politically. But yeah, so at this forum, the Alberta group or whatever, all of them rejected it, except for Danielle Smith. All of them rejected it. So because Danielle and Brian Jean are currently kind of the front runners, Rick Bell went over and talked to Brian Jean. He's like, oh, what do you think about this? So Brian Jean gave like this limp Rachel Notley kind of response.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it.
No. Give me an impression.
So basically he said, like, this is not the way. This will make things worse. Or like, we need to negotiate, or we have to have a conversation about the problems. And it's like,
with who?
Come on.
With who?
Yeah, exactly. Ottawa.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we got to talk it out, or we're like all part of a country, that kind of thing.
Let me kick it up the chain.
Really weak response. The second thing that's big is the virus thing, which Danielle Smith said, lying or not, or would she cave to the pressure? That question undecided. She said, we will never lock down again if I'm premier. So that's...
To be fair, she used the words, let me be clear, which is what a politician says when they're about to lie.
But it's also...
make no mistake.
Yeah, it's a classic line. Make no mistake.
I'm about to lie.
But that's another thing that no one else, except maybe that mayor guy, Bill Rock, I think he said we'll never lock down again. But basically everyone else says, oh, well, I don't know if I want to say that. We got to... Yeah. So that's what Brian Jean said.
Yeah.
So Brian Jean said, oh, I wouldn't go that far. Oh, no, certainly no. I wouldn't. We have to stay flexible. We'd have to see what happens. We don't know what threats are out there. We have to keep the doors open.
To be fair, you could say something pretty reasonable there, where you go, there is a scenario in which one particular season of this endemic virus is by a factor of 10 or 20 more virulent and deadly, then we would have to assess and maybe do something. No?
See, that's the thing, like, not acceptable to me. Sure, you could make that argument and like, oh, it's reasonable, but I'm done with that. I'm not into that argument at all. Like, shut it down.
Yeah.
I want to hear someone say like never again.
Okay.
And that's the only acceptable answer for me. And the problem is with some of these people, they will not renounce the whole morality of it, the whole ineffectiveness of it, the whole ideological like insanity of it all. And so if someone will say that, say no, like we're not doing that again.
She didn't just say no, she said fuck no.
Pretty much. So that's good. So that's a distinguishing couple of characteristics on Danielle Smith's side. So then we have all these other candidates, and for the most part, they're just not as interesting as her, if those are your two main issues. And for a lot of people, those are the two big things.
No.
And she's really, honestly, pretty horrible on other things. Not as a judgment per se, but she is, you know, a little more like socially progressive, so to speak, whatever you want to take that to mean.
I would like to know what that means.
It's basically like socially there'd be no real difference between Notley or whatever. So
mandatory drag queen story hour?
I don't know. She probably wouldn't oppose it. But because remember, she
mandatory.
She crossed the floor pretty much over the whole you know, it was like some spicy comment that some backwater Alberta guy, I say that ironically, but
I thought that was all over and done with after Gene got in there, because it was some reverend that was just like, hate the gays.
No, there was the classic Lake of Fire incident like way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that kind of preceded the floor crossing. And I think it was something to do with their the party convention, and I think it was too like social conservative for her.
Yeah.
So that's a tension with some people. But anyway, for the top two things that a lot of Alberta people are interested in, which is the Ottawa relationship and the lockdown stuff, because that pissed people off in the right wing of Alberta, especially rural people.
Yeah, I think the firearm thing is going to get bigger and bigger, dude.
Well, that's an interesting thing too from the Sovereignty Act idea. That would be something that, for example, they could say like, we're not going to enforce that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the applications that they would suggest. So that's all.
If you combine that with the smoke that Trudeau's going to get over this RCMP investigation, Canada's deadliest mass shooting ever. Yeah, like I think people are going to go like, oh, well, it wasn't about safety. It was all about politics. Like, you're just doing this arbitrarily. Like, none of this matters. I think Alberta more so than, well, Alberta and Saskatchewan more so than any other place would just be like, fuck you. Like, you.
Well, that's kind of the direction I hope we're going. I think that would be perfect. And it's funny because, so this Alberta Sovereignty Act thing is, like we did a video about like equalization and like an actual educational sort of video, not like two idiots talking to each other video, but like, you know, it's a big thing and there's a lot of different angles. We did like the fair deal presentation or analysis video.
Panel report,
we did the equalization video thing. So we're well acquainted with the issue. And so we've got this Alberta Sovereignty Act, and it's been, you know, one of the main topics of discussion in kind of provincial media politically, and obviously among the candidates. So
do you really think it's going to be an election issue?
Oh, yeah.
Beyond, like, beyond the leadership debate, do you think it will become an election issue?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? It's going all the way.
Yeah, because Notley thinks it's insane.
Okay.
And she probably wants to go up against it.
She'd be like, they would outlaw unions. You don't want that, do you?
Well, she's been going hard against some of the things. Like, Notley's been saying a lot about, like, the provincial police force and all these, like, you know, crackpot ideas that she thinks come out of the whole fair deal attitude, even though she often pays lip service to the concept. Like, well, of course, I want a fair deal. Like, I want our resources from Ottawa and like Ottawa's support and blah blah blah.
We just need to bump those numbers around.
Just submit and obey.
Do it.
Yeah, what was I saying? The sovereignty thing is interesting. It's been the main topic, and so the main thing people say is like, well, it's crazy and it's blatantly unconstitutional. And what's interesting is that the supporters of it, or the people who created it, and Danielle, who's kind of adopted it for a big part of her platform, like she's like, this will be the first thing I do if I become premier. I will pass this act. And I mean, it's so hardcore. You might have enough sellouts within the UCP who would vote against it.
Huh.
Who put Canada before Alberta, for example. But so that's the big thing, and they say it's blatantly unconstitutional. So the response that they get from, again, the people who created it and whatever, is that yes, it is blatantly unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Or it can be seen as like enforcing our actual like rights within Confederation,
some form of sovereignty.
And they're like, I mean, so that argument doesn't work against them.
Yeah.
Because they don't care.
Do you think they'll laugh? Like somebody goes like, this is unconstitutional. Like, yeah, that's kind of the point. And they'd be like, oh, I get it now.
So, because the question always is, if you're interested in Alberta not getting like totally ripped off by Ottawa, the question is like, what do you do? Because most people agree, again, like you had a huge majority for the equalization thing. It's like a popular issue, and you don't need to be like a real crazy right winger for it. So the question is always, what do you do? And so this is something, and it's part of a whole package of ideas. But it's kind of the legislative side of dealing with Ottawa. So it's interesting. What do you think about it? Think it's a good idea?
Okay, so I remember when we did that Fair Deal panel report, and I was just like, this is gay. Like, this doesn't matter. And the more I think about it, it's actually kind of a big deal. And because I'm too jaded about the whole thing, like, I'm just like, oh, whatever. Like, it's just a bunch of cronies, like, getting some money and, like, asking their, like, burnout cousin who's, like, you know, a separatist. And they're like, hey, you voted for the Independence Party, didn't you? You're like, yeah. And he's like, why? Well, first of all, we should have meh. And he's like, okay, good. And he writes it down in his little panel report and then goes, okay, give me some money. And it's actually a bigger deal than you would at first blush, you know? And a lot of most of it was useless. Some of it was bad, but there was some good stuff in there. But the fact that it happened at all is kind of crazy. Now imagine it was binding. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just here you go. Like, do whatever the fuck you want. And yeah, so imagine we could. And the feds go like, you know, hey, guess what? Mandatory drag queen story hour for all kids. And then somebody would go like, I don't care what the feds say. Like, I'm not doing that. And they're like, you don't have a choice. I'm like, yeah, I think we do. We're just not going to do that. I don't think there's ever going to be a better climate for her to do it.
It's an interesting opportunity because it's right after the virus insanity.
And the fact that she didn't wait 3 months for the moderates to get shook out so that she could then turn around and give lip service to something extreme and then slowly walk it all back when it came time to, do you know what I mean? Like, first of all, you just sort of differentiate yourself from the other person. You're like, hey, I'm Danielle Smith. I'm that whore that ruined your fucking party. And the reason why I use the word whore here is specifically because she She cheated on her political party. She betrayed them. It's like a deep betrayal too. And it was for her own gain. So that makes you appear to be of poor morals. Like if you don't want to be known as that, you're like, hey, I'm the one who killed that political party you guys voted for 8 fucking years ago. You might as well just be like, oh, and by the way, fuck Trudeau. That's how, like, I'm not stupid. I know that's how you get elected in Alberta, to say screw the feds. But also right now, one of the most terminally unpopular prime ministers in history.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally true. Like
Like
that's a
this
good
is a
point because
layup.
Trudeau, and it really feels like you're stuck with it because he
Yeah.
should by all measures he should be taken out, but he's got Jagmeet on his side, and Jagmeet will prop him up as long as necessary to get the pension. Like Trudeau could do.
You think this is only about Jagmeet's pension?
On some level, I think that's probably 80% of it.
BMWs don't pay for themselves. Come on now. I gotta. He can only pimp himself so much on fucking Instagram.
Or, you know, it's probably just narcissism.
Oh, he thinks he's a kingmaker?
He thinks he's important.
Kingmaker.
He's
Dude.
really like a toilet seat for Trudeau.
He's more of a. He's a dick warmer.
But yeah, so you've got a really bad scene in Ottawa because people like, this shouldn't be happening, but we can't get rid of it for years if Jaggy is still at it.
Yeah.
So she's got that. And even if it's purely, like, maybe it's just purely a power play, but it's pretty gutsy. Like,
I don't know, as soon as Pierre gets leadership, anything the NDP introduces, he's going to make a vote of confidence on the fucking spot. It'll be great because the feds will be absolutely gridlocked because they will be so terrified that they're going to pull the trigger. And they're like, guess what? Another election. Let's go. Let's go. Or you don't get what you want. You have to vote against your own motion. Who wants to do that? You're like, oh, universal drug care. Like, okay, cool. Vote of confidence against, like, or to ban universal, like, you will never get to pass this. And they'd be like, okay, well, vote of confidence. Let's go. Of course they have to vote against it, and then okay.
yeah,
it's time.
I mean, I would hope so. And that'll change the dynamic a little bit, but how long does that take? Like, sidebar, when would there be the new leader chosen?
It's in the fall. October,
so the federal Conservatives is in the fall.
Yeah.
And it seems like Pierre
it's fucking done.
Is gonna do it, and he seems pretty effective as I don't know, like, I don't know if media savvy is the right word, but like,
he absolutely is.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting confluence of events there, but even if the whole Alberta Sovereignty Act thing combined with the no more lockdown thing, if you're kind of a what is it? If your inclination is to sell out, it seems weird that you would pick those two things. Now,
okay,
someone that comes across, I hate to pick on the guy, but Gene, I don't like Gene at all. I'm not picking favorites here, other than to say I think I want Gene the absolute least. So let me just say this about Gene: he gets his big ideas from Rachel Notley's Twitter account. Like, why don't we reduce your utility bills? Let's do something about these administration transmission network charges
for utilities for everyone.
It's like, okay, sure, I'm sure people would appreciate that, but that's not hardcore.
Oh, he's a tribute to the plebs. He's basically a funded tribute to the plebs.
And his big thing, you know what his big thing was with the virus? Like, he's so bad on this virus thing. So you know what his big suggestion was? Did you see it?
No.
So we're just comparing the two front runners on this topic. So Danielle says no more lockdowns.
Yeah.
To let me make myself clear, whatever she said. So, yeah, okay, well, that's what she's put out there. You know what Gene put out there?
What did he say?
He wants to have a mandatory inquiry anytime the government violates charter rights.
Okay.
And he wants there to be a vote. So if they're going to suspend your rights over like an emergency,
Uh-huh.
you can only do it for 2 months, and then you got to have a vote in the legislature to
Have
make sure
they already
they'll
have that.
keep going.
That is literally the principle. That's why that fucking premier ex-premier is suing the feds because the notwithstanding clause requires a new law to be passed in order
I don't
to
know. That's federal. He's just talking about.
No, this is same deal. So when we're talking about Emergencies Act and
That's at the federal level. Because Alberta doesn't like have an Emergencies Act like the federal government does.
the sovereignty flows upwards. So like when the
In theory.
when the governing body dictates that it's like it's fucking go time, all the branches below it do it. And not only that, all the provinces for the longest time took their orders or their posture from the feds. Right? So like City Hall does everything AHS does. Right? So AHS does everything CMOH does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay, so say everything you're saying is right and it's totally redundant, and there's something where they can just do that anyway.
Yeah.
That's
No, I'm just saying
Mr. Gene's big idea.
they already got a vote.
It's either totally redundant,
Yeah.
or it's fiddly and stupid,
Yeah.
or we all know what inquiries are about. It's about, covering your ass and justifying everything and saying mistakes were made.
But
maybe if we have more resources, it wouldn't happen.
Mistakes were made, but not by me.
We'll introduce some new departments.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
50
so inquiries, like we don't need an inquiry. Some of these people, there's another candidate, Rawan or whatever her name is. I'm blanking out on her name, but she was in the cabinet, I think.
Yeah.
And she's like, her big thing is, we need to have an inquiry. It's like we really don't. Most of us get it. We know what happened. We don't need an inquiry. So we just want to make sure it never happens again. And if we can, we want to, punish some people, like at least fire some more people. Like one of the big things the grassroots is clamoring for, because they get kind of distracted with things. Although I understand this, they say, which candidate will fire Dana Hinshaw like immediately?
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, well, she's got a contract, or oh, she's a good public servant, or like contract. Oh, there's a contract till 24. And, no one will say like, yeah, we'll fire her right away. Maybe Bill Rock did, the mayor guy.
Yeah.
Small town mayor who talks about leftist indoctrination.
Oh, no.
No, he's cool. He seems like a pretty wholesome fellow.
Look, those are things that you fucking you reference, you don't say.
Hey, wait. Speaking of Trudeau and Jagmeet, and Alberta, and small towns, did you hear about the Sundry Parade incident?
No.
Oh, you didn't? So this is just in the last few days. Maybe we shouldn't even be allowed to talk about it because it's so horrible.
What is it? Scandalous?
So they had a little like town parade.
Yeah.
And some float apparently snuck into the parade.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a Jagmeet and Trudeau float. So there was a guy dressed in a turban with a beard, and they're like, this is super racist. There was another guy dressed as like kind of a cartoonish Trudeau. So it was like...
Was he in blackface?
No.
Was the Jagmeet in
But I guess the equivalent... I don't think so.
Sellout sing?
I think it was just like a turban and a beard. So... on the one hand, maybe this is just, classical political satire. On the other hand, maybe this is extremely racist and deserves to be denounced. It was denounced like by everyone across the country, basically.
Okay.
And like anyone who'd asked about it in the UCP, like, I denounce.
But why
and
is it...
NDP was like, I denounce. And like, people need to denounce this. Why hasn't this person said anything to denounce this?
Was it a white guy in brown face wearing a turban?
I assume it was a white guy.
Yeah.
I don't believe there was brown face. I think he just had a fake beard and a turban on.
What's wrong with that?
Well, that's the question. Like, apparently it's horrible, like Canadian cultural standards. But it seems like, uh,
Jagmeet's got a great beard. There's nothing wrong with trying to copy that.
well,
And is
I don't.
to wear a turban, is it racist to do that unless you're Sikh?
I guess most people would say it is. Again, to me, when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's pretty. Um, that's like on their little float. It was like the liberal, and it was like Trudeau.
Oh,
I don't know. You'd have to look it up, but
okay.
anyway, so um, is it funny? I don't know. Is it like cutting political satire? I don't know. Is it racist? Like, it honestly doesn't seem racist.
Okay.
Other than if your standard is this is some like equivalent of blackface.
I can tell you.
But what else are you gonna do? Like,
I can tell you
is
right
it
now.
not okay to ever dress up like Jagmeet? And as far as I know, they didn't use any kind of like makeup. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Based on all those questions, I can tell you what it is. It's art. It's fucking art. If you don't know if it's parody or political statement or racism or a statement or whatever, it's absolutely art.
So anyway, that might be true.
You disagree?
I don't know. I don't.
You can't.
It's too hard to define art. Like, I'm too dumb for that.
That's why it fits.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it like I know it if I see it because I don't know it?
Like pornography, you know it when you see it.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, so the Sundry Parade organizer were like, we did not sanction this.
We denounce.
We denounce. We denounce. We did not allow this. They snuck into the parade, and we've introduced
the entire float going 10
maybe it was like
kilometers an
parked
hour?
on a like perpendicular street and just
Oh,
like
it's
slipped in there.
Absolutely, that is absolutely art. If they legit did that, it's art.
But so anyway, yeah, the parade's like, we've introduced measures so this will never happen again. So I mean, that's the story as good as I know it.
Like what?
And I don't know. Like, I don't even care.
Merkel boxes.
Basically, it's just
everywhere.
one of those things that lame people can point to, like Alberta as being, look at these like backwards hillbilly racist bigots.
You will never
who live out in Sundry or.
But we
those kinds of
elected
places.
Nancy. Dude, it's the
in
same.
Calgary.
It's the same fucking problem. You will never prove to these people, Albertans, you will never prove to the rest of the country you're not racist. Ever.
No, I mean to like the rest of Alberta. Like urban Alberta, right?
Well, here we might be the extreme examples, but like most people, most people will just go like, whatever, I fucking hate those guys anyways.
Yeah, well, they're just looking for an example, which is why they need a desperate case like this, where I think
it's pretty desperate.
Like, obviously I'm a horrible person, but I just don't see.
I would have suggested that
it seems pretty low on the offensive scale, but what do I know? I'm just a jerk.
Yeah. If I was involved, I would have insisted that in order to assuage this, the only way, like, you could make this unstoppable if the person who was wearing like a Trudeau mask or a Trudeau like mache face did blackface.
Well, yeah, remember that guy who showed up at some
it was a Toronto protest.
Yeah, what was the protest for? Was it a virus protest?
I don't even know, but he showed up there and he has become a meme.
Oh no, didn't he show up at like a BLM protest like after George Floyd in Toronto or something? Like, why?
God.
Putting aside the question of why Toronto like needs to get out and protest, like, I don't know why Canadians are so obsessed with like reacting to American stuff so much. It's
because
weird.
They have no culture.
Yeah, they're pathetic. And we're doing it now with like the Roe v. Wade thing and the gun thing, or the shoot 'em ups, mass shooting.
Schools, yeah. School shootings.
Yeah, so I don't know why we have to do that. But anyway, that's what happened. I think he showed up there, right?
Yeah.
With the gold
Dude,
the blackface, like, and he's like, I'm Justin Trudeau. And he got arrested or like hauled away or something.
I think it was disturbing the peace.
He might have just gotten arrested and like let out
go
somewhere else.
They're like, dude, you're gonna get fucked up if you stay here. You're gonna get hit with a couple batteries, dude.
But yeah, so if that's bad, they didn't, have the blackface Trudeau.
He should have.
I think the blackface Trudeau should be plastered everywhere. Like it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
These people these people who lecture us, and they're all shitheads. Like you wouldn't trust Justin Trudeau to like watch your cat for an hour. You wouldn't hire him to clean your bathroom because he's like a lowlife.
Jagmeet admitted to using his child as a prop in the House of Commons.
That was weird.
He literally said, I brought it so that they would have to see a child that is affected by their policies. It's just like, didn't you?
What policies? What were they talking about again?
It doesn't fucking matter what they were talking about.
It's weird.
He brought his unvaccinated child into the we must work from home House of Commons because COVID is so scary.
You'd think the big statement would be like the feminist mother politician who like brings her baby in and like breastfeeds in front of everyone. But Jagmeet cut ahead of the curve. He's like, yo, I'm like, I brought my baby in.
I may not chest feed, but I also have to rear this infant.
Why does he have a pink turban? Are we allowed to talk about that?
I think we are.
Will we be banned?
I think the colors may signify some things. I think maybe use certain colors certain times of the year, certain events. I don't know. First of all, I'd like to preamble all this ignorance with the fact that I think Sikhs are pretty based.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Look how much support they had for the truckers.
Yeah. On a whole,
they love the trucker convoy.
They govern their lives on a code and a set of morals. And for that, they have to be considered your brothers. That's it. But I'm allowed to talk about what's the deal with the color.
Yeah, we're unaware.
Yeah.
Ignoramuses.
I would love to,
because there might be some cultural dimension to it, but for some reason I feel like my instinct is to judge Jagmeet in such a way that it's like some weird, like, remember those pussy hats?
The Donald Trump pussy hats?
I'm probably canceled for saying this, but it, like, the way him in particular wearing a pink head garment like that,
absolutely,
it makes me think of because he's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of got that weird
new male.
Yeah, new male thing, kind of like. And he's really like emotional about things. And remember when he gave a speech about his emotions, and he's given a lot of those over the years.
He
like how he feels. Like, I don't want to hear how a politician feels.
He had to he called
Trudeau does that too, crying press conferences
constantly. We had a counter at the office on the whiteboard. We had to change that number pretty often for how many times he cried. He hasn't cried this year though, which is, I think that's the longest dry spell he's had.
Trudeau?
Yeah. I think he's back on the booze.
I think he drinks a lot.
A lot. So they saw, because there was a big scandal like 3 or 4 years ago for the amount of money that he spent on drinks on his private Canadian jet.
On a one-way trip.
Yeah, dude, he dropped like 100 G's on booze.
And there was something recent.
Yes, so it was the Governor General and 11 other people spent $100,000 on food and booze for a round trip conference to like the G8 or some shit like that. They get fucked up. They're like, dude, it would be difficult. They're like, oh, they had 11 people there and they drank 22 bottles of wine. And I'm like, okay, I can see you putting down a bottle of wine. They're like, over 3 or 4 days, maybe put back 2 while you're at work,
Or one a day.
Just one a day, like Andre the Giant style. Just put it back.
At work, quote unquote.
Look, you tell me someone who had some high performing cream of the crop bureaucrat who hasn't polished off an entire bottle of wine in the middle of a meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's probably every Friday afternoon
Yeah.
or every afternoon.
No, I'm talking like before lunch. Like these people get it done.
Yeah, like
and you know what?
Mad Men style.
Just based on averages, I'd say probably 2 to 3 people on that flight didn't drink. Do you know what I mean? So it's 11 people. That's not 2 bottles of wine each. So some of those people are drinking 4 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
Easy.
Well,
They get hammered.
so Trudeau's probably an alcoholic. We've seen evidence. He's there's footage out there.
Remember
various examples of footage out here of him kind of stumbling around.
Remember he was hiding at the cabin? How fucking puffy he looked?
He looked bad.
Yeah. I was like, man,
I thought he had like a adverse response to
he had
it.
the so when Theresa Tam had that eye twitch going on, definitely wasn't fucking anything to do with the vaccine. And Justin Bieber's a liar. That's all Photoshop, and it has nothing to do with the vaccines. I would also like to remind you that when a young, healthy person has a heart attack or a stroke
That's
or
totally
dies,
normal.
it's not only is it totally normal, it's very rude.
It's expected.
It's very rude to ask if they were vaccinated.
Okay? Yeah, you're not allowed to talk about that.
The only time you should ask someone if they were vaccinated.
I denounce.
The only time you should ask someone when they're vaccinated is if they want to get into your restaurant or to fly or to work at a job. But definitely not when they die randomly as a healthy 20-year-old athlete on the field.
Definitely not.
Rude.
So Ottawa is a town of debauchery. I know some people who've worked there in like the government sense, like around the kind of parliament scene. It's absolute debauchery.
In what?
Everyone
what
like sexual debauchery, drugs and alcohol, and it's exactly what you'd expect. Like it's Washington Canadian version. They're all degenerates. They're all losers. They're all power trippers.
Yeah.
We know what these people are like.
Yeah.
And which would be fine. And we've all got our problems, but they get funded by
look my
subsidized.
Whether you realize it or not, if you have fucking any investments at all, someone down the line between you and your money does a lot of coke. So I get it.
Yeah, but so what were we talking about before that though? About got into Trudeau's alcoholism.
He hasn't been crying very much lately. He seems to like kind of have it under control.
So Trudeau's not popular. We were talking about that a bit earlier, but he's just getting he's been under a lot of uncommon criticism, I guess, from unlikely sources.
Yeah.
So I mean, he had or I should say there's been a lot of things that have made him look bad.
Yeah.
So the trucker thing made him look bad.
Yeah.
The Emergency Act thing is making them look bad.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but because some people are like, yeah, good job. But most people think he's a total goof. And remember, he only won the last election in 21, which feels like a really long time ago, but it's really not. He only won that with like 30% of the voters.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of people who don't vote. So like, what's that? Like 15% of the population supports him or whatever.
Maybe 20.
So he is the fringe.
Yeah.
And now because of all this airport stuff and all this inflation, inflation is the killer.
Yeah.
And he's getting criticized by his own people, and even CBC will ask a tough question ever of a liberal minister or something.
Wait, who's that horrible woman that's on CBC?
Rosie?
Yeah. When she asks him a hard question, then I know the worms turn.
Well, Rosie's looking for a job there after.
Yeah.
So she'll never be too
right.
tough.
Yeah.
And she'll get one.
Yeah.
But
how much do you think she'll weigh by then?
So speaking of CBC, at the rate she consumes poutine, she'll be twice her size in 3 years.
She could moonlight as the NDP health minister.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
or the Belgian health minister, one or the other.
So for CBC, one of the things that always happens during a leadership campaign for the federal conservatives, which is basically a joke party, but it's semi. We maybe talk about that a bit more, but
Oh, they have to
uh,
astroturf for
they have to
the
say, "Oh,
yeah.
we'll cut funding to CBC," or they say like we'll get tough on CBC.
No, Pierre just
And
said done. It's gone. It's cut. You're dead.
yeah, and that's
But also didn't
I mean,
fucking.
should they be even allowed to cover something when they're like there's hundreds of probably a good $1 billion on the line for them.
Oh, more.
The way things are set up to
Way
give
more.
them money directly and then also like, let them do other things. Like I hate CBC so
Someone's
much.
got to funnel money to David Suzuki somehow.
Yeah, so they shouldn't be allowed to like report on politics that they're
Involved,
where they're
like-
on the chopping block. Conflict of interest. They should make a law.
Well, they
But
have
they shouldn't be allowed.
they have special legal privileges and certain duties to go along with those. They're allowed to ignore compulsion by the court.
That's kind of interesting, but
Think about
so
it. They're a class in the law.
because didn't Aaron O'Toole say
He also said that.
And doesn't everyone say that in the
He
leadership
also said no
campaign?
carbon tax. He also said, because he said, let me be clear, no carbon tax.
Let me be clear.
Read my lips.
Read my lips.
Yeah. Make no mistake.
Truly, verily, verily, I say unto you.
Unto thee, let it go forth. From this day, there shall be no carbon tax. And he's like, no, it's not a tax.
This will be one of the best chances to get rid of the carbon tax too, because I don't think this inflation is going away anytime soon.
Oh, they're doubling down, dude.
And
they don't care.
But if
the federal election,
yeah, in terms of the federal election, if you put that on the chopping block,
the Alberta sovereignty thing.
Yeah. But so there's some complexities with that on the Alberta sovereignty side because
we don't agree to your taxes. Fuck off.
Okay, but
maybe
if you're in a federally regulated bank, you're still kind of in jeopardy, right?
Guess what? We're all using ATB now.
Yeah, we're all going down to the credit union.
Yeah. Guess what? It's provincially owned.
Well, that's part of that Alberta sovereignty package, not the act, but that's one of the proposals they say, like to help deal with that. You'd want more companies and more people to go into provincial credit unions, which aren't under like federal control.
Yeah, you got to thank the farmers social credit party for that.
Isn't it weird though that like oh, never mind. Anyway,
Isn't it
aborted thought.
What,
I wanted
ATB?
to go No, I wanted to go back to the just maybe carbon tax thing or just this like federal like whatever with the federal situation for the next few years, because I think this is interesting. Because if Jagmeet doesn't do anything, you're stuck with Trudeau till like 2025.
Yeah.
But like I think inflation will be like the slayer of him, and they have no idea how to deal with it. And the central bank's under kind of fire too, which is interesting because you can't criticize the central bank. They're independent and they can't be subject to political pressure.
No, they literally said, don't lay this on my fucking table because most of this is your fault. Trying to make this a private solution to your public nonsense isn't going to work. You can't tell us to increase rates and then you turn around and spend billions more dollars. Like it doesn't work like that. And that is someone so that was the CEO of TD Bank. Like he's a made man, right? Like if anybody's going to speak out of turn, it's probably not that guy. So it's probably a whole lot worse. That's as diplomatic as he could put it.
Yeah, and that's not something you normally hear.
No.
And I mean, someone like him is more powerful than the prime minister, probably.
He's 1/5 of basically Canada's.
But yeah, like there's no there's no abatement of Ottawa's like gushing flow of money. I don't know if you saw the chart, but it's a good chart. When you stack up Trudeau's debts against every other prime minister in history, Trudeau's debts are higher now, and just the money they're spending is absolutely crazy. And of
Higher,
course,
faster, longer.
higher, faster, longer, and of course, it's the inflation. Now, it's interesting that the media and the politicians, for the most part, will not point to the culprit, which is clearly the spending, which is monetized by the Bank of Canada, and therefore the Bank of Canada is implicated in that. But it's a monetary issue,
We
right?
were saving families.
Yeah, well, we were saving families, and you'd be dead right now if we didn't print more money and we incurred debt so Canadians wouldn't have to. Oh, that's real sophisticated economics, but
Listen here, you fucking peasant. It is only through my benevolence you exist.
But they're not going to stop spending anything. Like every solution that people seem to be proposing is like, well, we'll spend more money to help with cost of living increases. But the treasury is empty. Like there is no money.
People,
The Bank of Canada has to pony up.
Yeah,
for your and they're selling assets now, right? Like they've started for
I know a lot of
I think it's been like 3-6 months or something. I haven't looked at the chart.
Like real assets, not.
No, they're selling the bonds, right? They're
okay.
So that's what's pushing up the interest rates, sort of, but long-term rates are still really low. Like the 30-year bond for Canada, take a guess.
Oh, 0.5.
3.3%.
Wow.
So like absurdly low. The 10-year is like just a little bit lower. The curve is weird, but it's not totally flipped like end to end.
You mean it's not negative interest yet?
Well, in real terms, if there's, we had 7.7% inflation, if the 30-year pays 3.3 and the 30-year, see, this is the thing that's weird to me, and I don't totally know how to, I think I can explain it, but I'm not 100% certain just because it's kind of weird. But long term, there doesn't seem to be a big expectation of inflation because the 30-year, the market is still requiring like the 3.3% yield on the 30-year, which seems obscenely low, and it's negative if it's 7.7%. But if they really thought that that's just the nominal rate, or
then who's buying these bonds?
Well, the Bank of Canada was buying them, but pension funds and stuff still buy them, especially now because there's talk of recession. So people have to buy up that rate of return that's guaranteed, because 3.3% nominal rate is better than -5 or -10. So
no, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
You're
obviously
better off just setting it on fire to make a point at this point.
Pretty much, but so that's strange. Like there doesn't seem to be really a long-term inflation expectation amongst the biggest market buyers and sellers, which I find is weird because I don't see how they get rid of this. Like, will they like crash the economy hard, or will they kind of go easy? Because what happens is they only have a indirect control over the interest rate. They don't just set the rate; they set the target rate, and then the market will adjust.
Yeah.
So the market is still setting the rates. If they try to push the rates up, that will put pressure on the economy. That'll create problems for like more marginal projects, and then you go into kind of the recessionary mode. Well, then what happens in the recessionary mode? The interest rates fall again because you're bidding up those kind of locked in rates of return that are higher, but everyone's going after that. So the pressure from the central bank to push it up is pushed down by the market when they're basically worried about returns going forward. Like they're locking in safe low rates, and there's the flight to safety, as they call it. So I don't see how they can really crash the economy like they'd have to just dump like an impossible amount of their balance sheet. So I think it's just kind of like what the Keynesians would call sort of the liquidity trap, where it's kind of like trapped in that, like we're going into kind of the Japan mode.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of people I've seen some pretty convincing arguments that Japan is better off than it would seem on paper. Like,
I don't know, it's pretty good. Like it grows slowly,
yeah, but it,
but
you know,
they're richer every year.
yeah.
Society's clean and safe, and
Well,
but
in terms of economic policy, like it just seems like you're never like no one has to scrape together. It's not like the peso here. You know what I mean? Like the yen can get some stuff done, and it almost classically has. And they look at it like it's not a tiny island, but instead look at it what it represented like in the 80s during like they're like, oh my god, what a behemoth.
yeah,
We're all gonna be speaking Japanese, you motherfuckers. Like, and then everything goes tits up, and then they're just like, man, they're a shell, and it's like, no, I think they seem to be doing okay. They have a very good standard of living, and the yen you can get some stuff done with it. It's pretty regulated though, so I don't know. It doesn't seem as bad as it does.
No, I think it's done pretty well, and up to a point, like in the last kind of 10 years when they really deliberately depreciated their currency a lot, they were especially well protected wealth wise because they kept the yen very strong, and they had like over $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. So if they needed to buy more yen, they could very easily do that. Like they have the power to bid up the price of their own currency because they have so many foreign reserves. Now, the inflation thing's big problem, but it's weird that the 30 years only 3.3%. So it seems like that's kind of a recessionary indicator because it's so much lower than the rate of inflation.
It reminds me of I was looking for this article. It was the Canadian Race Relations Foundation lost $3.7 million in a single trade. But
Was
overall,
it bitcoins?
no. When COVID hit, they hit the eject,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they hit the eject
This is like a
button.
year ago or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So they lost. They had originally been assigned $24 million. Right? They would be like race relations. You go, you invest it. I think overall, they went after 20 years. The $24 million that they had after 20 years of investment was worth $25.8 million. They've lost effectively 16% of their value because that was 20 years ago. They've gained $1.8 million in 20 years.
That's pretty bad.
The foundation took a $5.1 million loss in 2008. And their answer to this was, we'll cut the payroll by 40% and reduce the size of the board from 20 people to 12. That's
freaking giant boards at these places.
So they got interviewed and they're like, yeah, what, like, come on now, you got to protect this money, make some shit. And they go, if anyone can help us find a qualified person who'd be willing to serve on the Canadian Race Relationships Board with expertise in finance, please forward their name. What the fuck, dude? Oh.
Yeah, hilarious. It's like these places are such grifts, but hasn't this place been around for a while? Didn't you say it's been around for
20
Yeah,
years.
like, so maybe they just the grift accelerated because
20
of course kind of
people on the board.
So is it total incompetence, or did they just like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't sound like kind of the BLM thing where you're buying mansions for yourself.
Yeah, no,
or you're paying $1 million for security to your brother.
Man, I can't.
Is it just sheer financial ineptitude?
I
And
just respect.
but
I
they have
just
to
respect
they
the
have these
hustle.
huge boards, right?
Yeah,
And then it's like money for the people on the boards, unless it's free. Like I don't know, but I'm sure they get
they
something.
they cut their pay by 40%, and they're like, so that means almost half of the money that they were paying. It was okay to just stop paying that, and we can still function and do and exercise
Yeah,
our
so it was
mandate.
probably them giving their friends all kind of
That's just,
jobs,
yeah, just
board
payroll.
of director positions, and they probably spent money on consultants. It probably was like a 20-year scam that just their financial ineptitude finally brought them
Yeah,
to their knees.
so with a 7% return on $24 million on 2 years, that's a total loss of $5.7 million. Pretty bad. Dude, what a great there's like a new like a new soy like soy jack face. I don't know if can you see that?
Yeah, that's one of those smugs.
Yeah, one of the
One of those
smuggies.
smuggies.
Yeah.
Those are hilarious.
Arachnophobic, huh? You must secretly want to fuck spiders.
Speaking of grifts based on like racial justice or whatever, some of these.
Dude, don't hate the hustle. If you could,
No, speaking of which,
yeah,
recently in Saskatchewan, some professor got fired for pretending to be Indigenous. I don't know what's with these whiteys pretending to be Indigenous.
Pretend how? Like, did he not have a band card?
I don't know. Maybe it's racist to ask, but it was recently, like it's in the last month, I think. It's some woman.
Oh no.
It's these white women pretending to be
there was that woman,
Indigenous Canadians.
there was that was it the chick who was the head of Black Studies at like York or like a pretty high end university, and not Brown,
but those ones
turned out to be a fucking white woman.
It seems to be easiest to fake.
Yeah.
To be the Indigenous like fake. And like Australia, they've got tons of words for it. There's like 6 words for it.
Give me 2.
I'll get canceled if I say them. There's pretendian.
Pretendian?
I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them. I can't remember. That's the only one I can remember, which probably makes me a bigot because that's the one I remember.
Oh, you can't even remember your racist terms? How else will you know when you're being racist?
I don't know. I'm out of touch with the lingo. But yeah, a lot of scammers, race scammers.
Oh yeah, the race grift. There was a banned YouTube channel called Frame Game Radio who did a series on this during the Starbucks like
the guys using the bathroom.
No, the guy's waiting for a friend.
Yeah, and they wanted to use the bathroom.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. No, they were just like, we're waiting for a friend. They were like, bye or get out. And they were like, fuck you, call the cops.
To be specific, they were waiting for like 20 minutes, didn't buy anything, and then asked to use the bathroom. And they're like, no.
It's for customers only.
I don't see what the big deal is. Like, if you're going to wait 20 minutes, why wouldn't you buy something while you're waiting? Like,
man, fuck Starbucks. Their entire model, their entire shtick, in much the same way that Apple speaks to the individual and its expression, Starbucks speaks to the community member.
So what
they're community enjoyers. Do you understand? You can't put out free Wi-Fi and a bunch of fucking laptop plug-in ports and be like, no, it's not okay to chill here.
Yeah, but
their entire marketing is built around fucking
I don't know. Like I wouldn't want people coming into my place and not buying stuff and just hanging out and taking up seats. Like,
dude, that's their model. That's what they.
When you buy stuff, they want you to hang out there after you buy something.
At some point, you're gonna get thirsty. I got plenty of drinks. Look, I'm just saying that's what they market. Okay.
Well, I don't know, but yeah, that was a scene.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was the
That was like
entire
racial abomination.
the entire industry like just converged on that, and there was all the friends of uh
Well, that
Cincinnati,
was
and yeah, like there
no,
was all these
there was
organizations.
no, there was some other fallout from that because like, well, anyone can use the bathroom now,
Yeah.
and then like crackheads started rolling in there, like shooting up smack,
Yeah.
and it became an issue. That's quite a few years ago, but that was
Anyways, yeah, like the grift just happens, and it's like I remember Boondocks had the uh perfect example of this was it was voiced by CeeLo Green. It was Reverend Goodlove, and Reverend Goodlove was like a race hustler. There's a billion, like there's billions of dollars at stake here, and you have a lot of very very unemployed gender studies and race studies, and like sociology degree, like not the real kind sociology degree, uh uh, people who have been promised a seat among the elite.
and the market isn't rewarding them the way they think they deserve. That's at the root of their bitterness towards capitalism, as Ludwig von Mises wrote in The Anti-Capitalist Mentality, which is a short book that's very worth reading.
That can be available, like you can just download and
You
read
can
that
just read
fucking
all
thing.
that stuff.
You can just
But
go
it's
to
short. It's like 60 pages or something. But it's a good
Mises.org.
essay. Um, the yeah, there's huge money up for grabs, and there's just basically no one's willing to kind of draw a line anywhere. It's the nature of the ideology is that there's just no limit. So you keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, in ever increasingly absurd to some people, uh, increasingly absurd ways.
Oh, that's
You
the
know, like one of the apex predators is of this stuff was I'm gonna get canceled if I say the wrong thing.
I like that term, apex predator.
But remember, like Jonathan Yaniv,
Oh yeah.
who's like, wax my balls. I'm a woman. Wax my balls, and if you don't, and he wasn't there like 22 like complaints to
Yeah.
Human Rights Commission and stuff, and
Yeah,
like
Jessica Yaniv lost all those suits,
astonishingly,
like
I'm
badly,
surprised it wasn't like a guaranteed victory.
in Vancouver, BC.
Yes.
Okay, so had to pay these people for the hardship. But yeah, apex predator for sure. Shout outs to Langley Resident. I don't know if you've ever read that blog.
Yeah, the Twitter account that like keeps an eye on things.
Or like Jessica kicked the dog again today.
Absolutely maniacal.
Yeah, I think also
You got to be a sick person to do that to people, though.
Kean Bexley won his lawsuit against.
I think it was like an assault conviction.
Oh,
But there's
yeah,
no
yeah,
jail
no.
time or
Oh.
anything.
What?
You know, it's like
It was a
ninth
slap.
degree assault, like some low thing, and
It's
like
it's some shit you wouldn't even give.
basically, you're not going to
for.
jail unless you're like a trucker convoy organizer in this country.
Speaking of trucker convoys, what do you think is going to happen this weekend?
I don't know. I think it's going to be Honkamania 1.5.
No, they banned all motor vehicles in downtown Ottawa.
Well, there's going to be symbolic honking.
Air horns.
It'll be Honkamania minus the honking.
Air horns everywhere.
I don't know, but I think it's hilarious because basically it's going to spoil Ottawa's Canada Day. And like Ottawa is like Babylon to me. It's like Egypt.
It reminds.
It's the heart of evil.
I've got this great web where it's a guy with a portable speaker and a saxophone, and he ends up playing the Dragon Ball Ultra Instinct theme while people are rioting and throwing bricks. And I was like, yeah, someone's gonna bring a fucking portable amp and just get this done. I think it might be interesting because they had that guy walk all the way from BC.
Yeah, he's the main thing. It's apparently it's a bunch of veterans who are kind of at the root of the Canada Day protest thing.
Yeah,
Or
but
maybe I'm wrong. That's what I
yeah,
think
it
is the
seems that
case.
way. It's not that bad. I mean, it could be. It's okay.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess it's a little cheesy.
I don't want to walk across the fucking country. I just want my rights. But like he sat down and talked to a bunch of PMs. Not everyone showed up. I think
PMs or MPs?
MPs.
Okay.
Uh, and I think so. Like Tamara Lich got arrested 2 days ago for criticizing the government, which was part of her bail condition. Can't criticize the government or you go to jail. Is what you get for mischief, by the way, advising mischief. So I think, and who's the other person? Like Andy Lee, I think. Yeah. So there's a confluence and there's like a second kind of like kick at this cat, maybe sort of happening. And the only reason why I wonder whether something is going to happen or not is because of
Hang on. Just
how hardcore the Ottawa police have been in their messaging. Like, like don't come here with that shit. Like we will.
well, they're basically declaring like they're doing another
No
lockdown. But
quarter.
what when you said sorry, I don't have the exact wording, but like you're not sure if something's going to happen. What do you mean something? What is the something? Or
Well,
you
so
sorry, what'd you say? You don't think something's going to happen or you're not sure if some
I wonder
like
if
what is
there's
the thing, I guess?
a confluence of events, a conjuring, as it were, for a happening. Like how in all the Malazan books, like
Yeah,
a
convergence.
convergence. So 80% of the book is them all going to the
Yeah.
convergence, and like 20 pages is shit happening.
Yeah.
So, I think there's room for something like that to happen, and not because they're like, oh, it's a fucking Tinder bed out there.
Well, it's
Like,
Canada Day, which is funny, and they're basically like,
kind of a big deal.
well, it's. I think it'll just be very disruptive,
It's symbolic in nature,
and it will, yeah, symbolic. That's true.
so
Disruptive, partly because of the response by the police
yeah,
themselves, which is like shutting down downtown on Canada Day or whatever.
So I thought about this a bit, and I look at what is happening in America and the fact that 30% of people are willing to slit the throats of 30% of the people there, right?
Yeah.
And Canada sees other Canadians as having no deep fundamental disagreement as it comes to morality and ethics. They consider the people around them to be moral and ethical people, and thus like part of their in-group. They are not willing to commit violence against other Canadians out of hand. But I do believe they're willing to commit violence against police officers as representative of the state. In so far as when you look, like, I think an old native grandma getting trampled is enough for people to smolder. But this could be a giant cope.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's warm. Like they're not freezing anymore. There's no snow on the ground here. And it's July. The sun doesn't go down to 10, and I've been drinking since 4. Okay? And I've been hanging with my bros. They're all part of my tribe. Okay? And you've been hassling me all fucking day. Every time I look across the street, there's the fucking gendarmes. There's some shithead with stripes on his fucking pants giving me the fucking stink eye. And I've been sitting here with a fucking rock. Okay? I played a little JV ball growing up. I bet I can hit him from here. Fuck these guys. Do you guys, like something will happen, and it only takes something small.
Do you think a mask fanatic will attack somebody?
No.
Remember that one guy? Do you
Yeah.
think we'll get another guy like him, but it'll end in like violent confrontation?
No.
Don't you think it was the ultimate response they gave that guy? Like,
Dude,
join us.
I'm fighting for your rights. No, I think a cop.
Will beat somebody.
I think a cop's gonna fucking step out of line, dude. I think.
A female cop will shoot somebody because she got scared.
Oh, she reached for a taser?
Revolver.
Is she gonna say taser, 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 and then blow his fucking head off?
Oh yeah, remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. She actually went to fucking jail. Rare.
I think she got acquitted.
No.
I think so.
No, see, that's what I was waiting for, and I'm pretty sure she didn't. All right, fact check time. I'm gonna debunk.
That can't be debunked. I think she got acquitted. Or maybe not, I don't know. There's so many of these cases, like it's hard to remember the details.
Wow, it's like you can't remember all the scenarios where cops killed people and got away with it on camera.
Well, it's like 1,000 a year, isn't it? Like police shootings.
Something like that, dude. But like we're using American numbers, and we do that.
Yeah,
a lot.
like
we do that a lot.
Canada. Actually, Canada has if you take all of North America, you want to hear a fun fact?
Let's hear it.
If you take all of North America and say like basically rank all the provinces, territories, and states. So like again, taking it as the two countries.
So the 52 and 12, okay.
So 62 ranked, or 63.
Something like that.
We got 3 territories, man. You got to know your Canada. Why do you hate Canada so much?
If you have a population less than 1,000, you don't count as a province.
So of the top 5 murder rates on that list,
yeah,
the top 5 places like states, provinces, or territories, 3 of them are in Canada.
Okay.
They are the 3 territories.
Oh, because it's per capita.
Yeah, but still per capita, like they're all being judged that way. So we're like, who are we to judge?
There's, like
people go crazy up north and are just axing each other.
White horse is just Chirac.
I don't know why they're hacking each other up there.
Not much.
Probably not enough sun. Maybe they go crazy.
Did you hear that conversation that I had with our Somali buddy?
No, I didn't listen to it all.
Oh, you suck, dude.
I'm obese.
He's a beauty. Fucking dare you. Anyways, no, he lived in Yellowknife for a while, and he's just like, dude, it's
weird.
It's mad.
It's different. Even if you go to like northern Alberta, it gets weirder.
Yeah, I Graham.
Like it's
Graham,
out
Graham
farther
Prairie.
from civilization, it gets more alien and weird.
Grand Prairie's pretty spooky, dude. I'm not gonna lie. It's
and weird.
But like Grand Cache is fucking sick. Just so you know, if you ever want to take a vacation, Grand Cache.
I don't know. Maybe
get some fishing done.
I like fishing, but kind of out of the scene. I gotta go nurture my crops.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just tend to your memes.
No, my crops.
Yeah?
The farm crops.
You didn't grow, you're not even growing grass up there. Aren't you? No, you're growing.
Yeah, we grow hay.
Yeah.
And wheat last year, wheat this year. Usually canola before that.
Dude, wheat's going to be nice.
Yeah, but the costs are way up.
Yeah.
Like fertilizer was like 3 times more expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, the inflation's hitting the higher up the
are you making
higher order goods?
Boutique wheat?
No, I don't know, not really.
It's not a bad time.
We make fancy hay.
Yeah.
For Asian equestrian customers.
Yeah.
But
gotta get that alfalfa, that good stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't go fishing. I'm trying to trying to be a farm man, an Alberta farmer.
It seems rough.
Oh, it's the most brutal job ever.
It's always At the same time, I've never seen a group of people complain more than teachers. But the farmer is pretty close.
The farmer complains a lot because they get dunked on a lot, and
but they're the
and
only...
it's pretty rough. But it's a very different kind of world and different kind of person, and like they like it's not like anything else as far as I can tell.
All I'm saying is imagine. So I'll just talk about IT because this is what I know. Imagine every IT guy you talked about just got in your face and was like, "You'd starve without me. You'd never find the start button, you fucking moron. You idiot. You don't even know how to connect to your Wi-" Like, they just got in your shit all the time, and it was like, the only reason why you're not dead is because I can reset your modem. You know what I mean?
I don't think the IT guy is kind of like the champ of our time. Like they don't get dunked on like say the oil field worker does or the farmer does or the trucker.
Yeah.
Like these people are disparaged by a certain class of the population the way. So I mean, you can see why some of them might be bitter.
But that's the thing.
And
like
complain about it.
In that bitterness that they provoke my contempt. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the catch-22.
It's like, look, quit your bitching.
But they don't really care that much.
They're like, all people, you know what pisses me off? All people think all farmers do is bitch. But if it wasn't for us, it's like, dude, why are we having this conversation again?
Well, I mean, if it wasn't for us, like, it's kind of true of a lot of things. And but
wow,
no, like I know lots of farmers. They're cool, man.
Yeah, they are. That's the thing.
And they don't complain as much as you might think.
But as a group, they're insufferable.
I don't know.
You ready for hot takes?
Yeah, it's like, drought, bailout.
Too much rain, not enough rain.
Market constraints, bailout. Like, it's insofar as it is a very political class. A lot of people aren't involved in any of that at all.
The wheat board.
Oh yeah, remember the wheat board?
The wheat board. Alberta cattle farmers. Remember how impugned they were?
Yeah, for mad cow disease.
Oh yeah.
Or cow methane gas destroying the climate.
Yeah. Cow farts. Now
they act like
now it's cow burps.
Like cows are natural parts of the ecosystem. Like so backwards these environmental people have become.
But if you count the 5 billion buffalo that used to be here, it's like there's no herd in. Oh wait, that reminds me.
They just really hate beef. They want you to eat the bugs. They want you to be taxed out of beef.
Did you see what's going down in fucking Netherlands?
Bug munching?
No, Dutch farmers are going off, dude. I wish we had fucking farmers like that. So, Netherlands, it was like we gotta meet our quota. We gotta meet our carbon cutting and nitrogen cutting targets. 30% of your farms are going away. 30%. So these, oh man, they're fucking sweet. They're beauties. They all get in their farm equipment. They go straight down to they shut down all the highways.
Nice.
Straight down to Parliament. Get a manure rig going. Blasted everywhere.
That's
There's
awesome.
Footage of them freaking out in the fields, tipping cop cars over. I'm like, man, I thought the Dutch were a bunch of pussies. Like,
well, we had some farmers get involved in the Coots border blockade.
Yeah, buddy.
That was pretty awesome.
And then the cops sabotaged their rigs. Didn't you see that?
Yeah, some
cops
excavators or whatever they were. I don't know.
The cops snuck into the field.
I don't get what was going on with that.
Cut the wires and blew the fuses on the fucking.
Ridiculous.
Dude, it's crazy. And they said they did it. The cops are like, yeah, and it's still insane. In court. It's still in court. They're still fighting it.
Coots border blockade.
Dude, that was as close.
That was legendary.
Yeah, it's as close as we got to a Red River Rebellion in our lifetime.
It was a good civil disobedience.
I was going to ask you to go. So they made a documentary about that. The boys from I think Rebel News or
Yeah, trucker convoy documentary.
but I thought they made one that was just for coots. I find it
Oh
far
yeah,
more
yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
I find that far more interesting than whatever the shit is going down in Ottawa.
Oh yeah, no, the border blockades is like
Big deal.
hardcore. Occupying the like having a obscene, loud, obnoxious party
Yeah. No, these were
at
just like
Parliament Hill is pretty awesome, but closing down border blockades for like weeks.
these
I
were
mean, the
just
Coots was the big one, but it
yeah.
was hardcore, even though it was temporary. Closing down the Nitsy, or no, it's not the Nitsy, it's the Ambassador Bridge. Have they built? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares about the Nitsy? I don't think they call it that
No.
anymore. Gordie Howe Bridge or something.
They shut
stupid,
down Ambassador for like a day or
which
two.
is even itself
Big deal.
pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Now we would. I
Cops
would have nothing but contempt if like Extinction Rebellion or climate change doomsday cultists did that. Or some social justice like protest.
Yeah.
But because it was for my cause and it was awesome and justified, I support it.
Okay.
Like epic civil disobedience. And I don't know where you draw the line, but that was epic.
My line is does it compel me to take it upon myself to go and clear it? If I don't feel compelled to go and do it myself, then I would not be as inclined to demand other people do it for me. So the part where it's like we're shutting down the bridge and it's just like, okay, is there a way around? It's like, yeah, but it's very inconvenient. It's like, okay, well, how long are you gonna do this? And then if they go for as long as it takes, it's like, okay, go get the shovel, like get the fuck out of here. But if
Well,
somebody goes
remember
like,
when they had railroad blockages over not Idle No More? What was that anyway?
it was Idle No More. There was a bunch.
No, Idle No More is like so old. I don't think that's a thing anymore.
No, so there was recent. Hold on. Let me.
Was it clean water on reserves or what was that?
Man,
what was the
Trudeau ran on that? What are you talking about? There's not a thirsty Indian left in all of Canada. Are you kidding me?
what was it climate change or was it Wet'suwet'en over Trans Mountain or something like that? I think that's what it was. But anyway, like that was pretty obnoxious.
Okay, so National Post did an article on this from that time. This was February 26th, 2020. So, article reads, fires lit, pallets thrown during Ontario rail protest as Legault warns of AK-47s in Kanawaka. So the Mohawk territory in Montreal. Dude, so they were dumping gravel with backhoes, all kinds of stuff. And they're like, oh, they all got AKs. Is that a serious question? Like, do you want to know if like, it's sort of hypocritical. Like, there's what's right, and then there's like what's true. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they have to go together.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's what's best, and there's what's right.
They have to go together.
No.
Oh yeah.
No, they don't.
If it's not right, it can't be best.
Trolley problem. Second
Trolley problem is like such a cope.
Dude, if you put your hands on that switch, you're deciding what's best. What's right is don't fucking touch it. We all know this.
Yeah, no trolley problem.
This is all I'm saying is if you could lie and make $1 billion and no one was injured, well, it's not right. But it's definitely best.
No.
Sorry.
It depends what the lie is. Like, there's no such thing as just the abstract lie.
I said no.
And no one gets hurt. Like, what does that even mean? I just said
no consequences. It doesn't matter what the lie is if there's no fucking consequences.
Well,
like, you could sit here.
Like you're wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah.
So that's a lie.
Like,
and if I got $1 billion,
you could sit here and tell me.
But it's like not in.
You could sit here and tell me you're not gay for like the next hour. There's no harm in that.
It would harm.
Lie all you want. It's okay.
I'm homophobic.
I saw you at the
homophobes
cross-dressing kids story time hour.
The
No, so if they said until we get what we want or until something is done, well then I don't know where we go from there. Like I don't think I would get out there with a broom and start getting those lads off the bridge. But if like show me the bodies. If there's bodies, then maybe we have some things to discuss. But like the whole like it's impacting local businesses.
I think
And
the
so does fucking
the
road
tr-
construction.
the trucker rebellion was fighting for humanity itself. So it was like the meta protest. It was the meta issue. And everything else that creates a big pain in the ass,
Yeah.
if it's not like, morally justified, I think it's lame.
What could
And
be more
should get out of the way.
morally justified than the continued survival of our species? How dare you?
Yeah, it's a doomsday cult. It's stupid. So that's why I don't support their protests,
And
like
that's how
creating any inconvenience at all.
Well, yet here we are paying carbon tax.
It's like if you're protesting the taxes are too low, like you're saying, oh, we need to raise taxes, and you go block a highway for that, like get the hell out of the way. I got no tolerance for your protest.
Would you?
But if you're fighting for humanity itself, not
no,
the
that's what they think
change,
they're doing.
Yeah, but they're wrong, and
Extinction.
I am the objective. I am the determiner of ultimate.
I am the arbiter.
Validity of any given protest.
What would it take for you to get out of your car?
I am the law.
What would it take for you to get out of your car with the tire iron?
I'm not going to go beat people, but like I'd get another guy and like lift people off to the sidewalk so I could drive through. That seems pretty
what about a fire hose?
Non-violent.
What about fire hose is pretty non-violent. What about
spraying people with water is
pretty
those
effective.
water guns are pretty hardcore, but getting people wet is maybe an acceptable or a justifiable approach to removing because again, like we have a right to travel around. You don't just get to block me, sorry.
Yeah.
So it is a thing. And so the truckers, it's like people think they went too far, they didn't go too far.
They left lanes open.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently there was some conduit at Coots or just very limited.
Fine.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Show me. All I care about is the bodies. Okay? So if they said 3 people died in ambulance on the way to the hospital because of delays, and they wouldn't have died if the roads had been clearer, then okay, cool. We got
I think that happened in the Seattle...
Oh, the Seattle,
autonomous zone.
Oh, Chaz.
Yeah,
Chaz.
Chop. I think that happened there because there was people getting there was shooting every night.
They shot at the ambulance driver,
and they would keep ambulances from going to get the people who got shot.
Yeah, so they tried to come in.
Don't worry, they have street medics in Antifa.
No, they got social workers.
Street medics, they call them.
Street medics. So anybody with just basic.
It's a LARP.
It's okay. I'm a street economist.
So yeah, I support all protests that are on behalf of issues I care about. I oppose any obnoxious protest that is against me.
In that you are like more Canadians than not. I think. Look, man, if
honestly, I thought protests were kind of stupid until the whole virus panic.
I thought they were super dumb.
'Cause I'm like, what else can you do?
I thought they were super dumb until the whole Wall Street thing in 2008, 2009.
Occupy.
Yeah. Occupy was some crazy shit. Dude, it gave birth to the Tea Party, for fuck's sakes. Do you remember that? One of the only political movements to come out of America since the evangelical political movement in the late 70s, early 80s. People were motivated. There was a swelling. And it all went to shit.
Well, the Tea Party thing lasted longer than like the Occupy Wall Street
I
aspect.
I'm
Like they
saying one
were, I
follows.
think they were kind of related in a sense, like in reacting to the same thing, but they were kind of like
Just
different scenes.
well, one blamed the government while the other ones blamed all
Like the
private
thing is,
businesses
the
and the
difference is
government.
clear. The Tea Party movement was an explicitly right wing thing,
Yeah.
and they were confused on some issues, and of course it gets distracted and stuff. But because of that, it didn't go off the rails on the whole like leftist
Yeah.
escalation, like moral grandstanding thing. So Occupy, what undid it was it became about every other like pet leftoid
The
project, like,
the
oh, let's so
occupy
instead of like corruption and Wall Street and
yeah.
all that, they it always like has that mission creep thing, and it became about racism and poverty in general and sexism and like just and atheism. You got to get that in there, and
Atheism plus.
atheism plus, and it just like loses focus, and that always happens with basically any non-explicitly right-wing sort of movement or whatever you want to call it.
Well, Occupy was the first time I heard the phrase or saw the progressive stack. Remember that, where you're like, like the more marginalized you are, the more in front of the camera we want you to be, and like you other people
Yeah.
sit in the back. But like a lot of them were upset about specifically like, oh, look at these banks getting billions of dollars, and she's like, who do you think gave it to them? And they're like, they wouldn't have had to have given it to them if they weren't so greedy. It's like, no, they're about as
It's like they run the government.
they're regulated, right? They're already watched over, right? And they're like, oh, he's a good boy. He didn't do nothing. The government was not asleep at the wheel. The government, no. It's because they're bad. These are ungrateful, greedy, evil people who should have some moral prerogative other than profit. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're gonna do. They literally need the state in order to do something this disgusting. Do you think there's a Venn diagram for autism, anime, and transgenderism?
Probably yes. Apparently transgenderism is correlated with autism
Yeah. Or is it
and speed running.
a huge correlate? Yeah, no, that would be part of the Venn diagram. I still think anime belongs in there though.
Japanese cartoons are kind of, if you try to like step back and be objective about it, they're kind of ridiculous in a different way than our own cartoons, and ridiculous because there's like this foreignness to them, and there's like a different like
Maybe.
iconography, and there's like just a weirdness to it that most, say, Westerners, it's like it's they can't like deal with it. Now the autismo like gets it somehow. They're like, oh wow, yeah, like
This makes sense.
and I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. But there's something different in the brain.
I think it's because there's rules. Like highly esoteric and strange rules that are always laid out in an info dump at the beginning. Do you know what I mean?
Well, maybe
years
even beyond that, there's kind of like rules to the medium. There's like unifying aspects that no matter how different these Japanese cartoons are, there's still like a certain
Aesthetic.
like symbol, like language, not language like the
No.
spoken language, but like the language of the art or the medium or whatever.
I remember seeing
like
an infograph on the types of hair and what they meant. Like
yeah,
the twin
and
tail,
just
the
so there's
single
kind of like
ponytail.
maybe it's because there's a system to it somehow, and the autism is attracted to this. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but people take that into a weird direction where they make a language out of the color of panties girls wear. They're like, oh, her panties are striped. That means she's a fiery, well-spirited, outspoken person.
Well, it has to be destroyed. It should be banned.
What about My Little Pony? Do you think that's like the evolution of anime?
It's American, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like all good things.
No, I guess it's not an evolution. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
but it's American.
Yeah. It's the perfection of the art form.
But it's not the same art form. It's like American.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's better. So,
My Little Pony. Are you a brony?
have you met one?
No, thank goodness.
I'm bummed. I've never met one.
Can you imagine a grown man watching My Little Pony?
Yeah, can you imagine a grown man watching anime?
Do
Yet
you
here
do
we fucking
anything
sit.
more shameful than watching My Little Pony?
I watched Tenchi Muyo, dude. Like,
I don't know
I
what that
watched.
is.
You watched Sailor Moon.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's one of my favorite shows. But that's way better than My Little Pony.
This is autism.
This conversation is evidence of autism.
No, the next sentence out of your mouth is distilled, like verbal, concentrated autism, because you're about to lay out
why Sailor Moon is vastly less pathetic than watching.
Yeah, probably
bronies.
A coherent and moderately thought out argument as to why.
I've never had to make the argument before, but I think it would be easy to
I think
do.
you've already got it in the chamber.
Yeah, I don't need to state it.
I think it's pretty self-evident.
Like I don't think I've seen the show, and I would probably want to hurt myself before I watched it.
It's like I
can't.
I don't know what you believe, but I'm sure.
I think
wrong.
I have like the anti-autism for Western cartoons.
Yeah.
Like I can't watch them. There's something about.
It depends. Like, have you?
Like I think the fact that there's a bit of a foreign aspect with this like cartoonishness or something. I don't know. Like if they're speaking English, like it's not alien enough to buy into it. I don't know, but I can't watch there's a lot of adults who watch cartoons, like Western cartoons, and I just don't understand any of them.
You're not a Rick and Morty enjoyer?
No, like I can't. I literally cannot watch 10 minutes of that. Like it is unbearable. And I don't know why. I think it's evidence of a condition.
I remember watching season 1 and 2 like Adult Swim makes crazy good stuff. It's very hit and miss, but when it hits, it's usually like amazing.
But say I don't know, like what do people watch? Like what do adult men watch for cartoons, like Western cartoons? What's something popular?
They fucking don't.
Yeah, they do. Like isn't it like a thing?
Adult
like who's
males,
watching this stuff?
Men that aren't trapped in their fucking teenage mindset, they don't watch that shit, dude. Can you imagine somebody who's like a proper fella who just is out planting wheat?
Well, I'm not talking about the proper fellows. I'm talking about the unproper fellows who are watching
the urban soy
like
boys.
what do they watch?
Oh, they watch Rick and Morty.
Like, okay, so that's not good.
No,
I can't stand. Just
it was a show ruined by a fandom, and everybody knows it.
Well, I don't know anything about the fandom. Like just the show
it's another
itself.
Wonderful Emplemon, EMPLEMON documentary on.
Remember the sauce?
Yeah,
the special like Rick and Morty sauce.
Yeah, Szechuan sauce. Yeah, it was a thing, but he did this kind of essay on how a fandom literally ruined a television show.
I don't know. I've never really been too concerned with what the fandom is like.
You should be,
because
have you ever met
a lot of things I like? You know, the scene around them, like they're lame. Like,
have you ever met someone
cool.
who's really...
I have perfect taste.
Have you ever met someone who's really into Evangelion?
I don't think so. Like, I don't know people like that.
They're insufferable.
Like, I don't know anyone who's like into Japanese cartoons. Like,
yeah, me neither.
I'm probably the worst person I know, to my great shame.
I would like to put forth a law proposal. And the New law is that if you, in Canada, are implementing, drafting, creating, or putting forth any laws that are retroactively found to be violating the charter, you go to jail. Like just jail. Like no like plea sentence, no nothing. Like you have to go to jail minimum 5 years. Anyone voting to renew those laws, they also go to jail. Because when we have a charter, we have a foundational document, and violence is done to us that circumvents that foundational document. It invalidates it. It's one of those damages that you can't quantify or put a dollar amount on. They just have to be punished. Like you can't kill someone, give them a couple $1,000,000 and then not go to jail. Do you know what I mean? Super easy to implement, super easy to do. I don't care whether the judges are not willing to actually hear these cases. The fact that the law exists and that you could go to jail at any time if that is ever found would require people to actually respect the fucking charter. And all these problems that we're all talking about go away. Because the stick is too small and the carrot's too big. Straight to jail.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, because like no politician would be on board for such a thing. Like some people might clamor for it, but no.
You want to talk about like
politicians
no
don't want
to
to be subject. They at worst they want to be voted out.
Yeah, I'll step down.
And they want the system to, give them coverage. It's like prosecutors. They basically can't be sued for doing anything bad that they do.
Yeah,
because it's like
yeah,
or the cops thing. Like what is this qualified immunity or
yeah.
So like the systems are meant to be set up so it's very hard to get in trouble, and especially like politicians if they're writing the rules or the lobbyists who are writing the rules, like they set it up so it's simple. Like I think it's a good concept, but
it's super small and it's super easy to do, and anyone that would vote against it,
it's like why they don't arrest anyone ever.
Yeah,
because they could. They've got the laws.
They could.
There's I'm pretty sure there's enough I mean, there's just so many scandals that are clearly illegal already.
Yeah.
Like even just, a lot of fraud, for example, back in the mortgage, whole mortgage debacle thing.
Yeah.
In 07, 08 and that. Fraud is already prosecutable. Like
there's already, there's tools in there already ready to go. But they're protected by the office for some reason.
And yeah, so they're, on the one hand, they'll just kind of avoid problems because they have a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And then the government's going to try and protect itself. I guess, it's like one of the reasons for all the theater and spectacle around it. Like they're never really going to prosecute Trump. They don't want to. Yeah. Nobody wants to be on the hook for anything.
I just think of it.
They pretend they do, so they'll have an inquiry.
Yeah.
And then they say mistakes were made.
Yeah. Let's have a 52-point action plan that we're not going to implement.
And we'll make a plan.
Yeah.
Or we'll have a committee.
So like the committee Trudeau put together to fix the immigration.
Yeah, or when they had the national or the spying apparatus or whatever.
Yeah, fuck.
And he's like, oh yeah, well, we're not going to get rid of it. We'll set up a commission to study it or to oversee it.
Yeah, and the overseer weren't even doing their jobs. They actually the military out and out said we're doing this, and the commission was like, you are? So
yeah, there's nothing they can do.
So there's something just beautiful about some group like the Justice Center for Canadian Freedoms, JCCF, things what they're called, that they take a single complaint to a judge on charter violations, and whoever passed the law that, you know, that gave that entity the power, that did it straight to jail. Everyone would go to fucking jail. So this whole, like, there's got to be some accountability. Like, we can already do this easy.
I mean, it's rigged so that, think of how contrary to the basic program that goes, because the Emergencies Act, for example, which is specifically set up so they can violate your rights whenever they want.
Requisition property, just take it
And
from
they're
you.
like, don't worry, there's like parts in the act that help us protect you.
They can compel you to act, dude. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so it's pretty hardcore. So, I mean, they've already got that. So they've got, basically, they've got a system that lets them, just break the rules. And it's like the true sign of power, is like the evil German philosopher Carl Schmitt once said, if you're in charge, it's because, or the sovereign is the one who decides the exception.
Yeah.
And that's like the corrupt parasite class of Canada, and basically every government, really. They've got the system rigged for themselves. Imagine the fundamental heart of, the weak, or the basic flaw or contradiction at the heart of like a statist system is, imagine like you and me, we got to live together. And I say, well, we're going to have disputes sometimes. And
I'll arbitrate.
yeah. So we're going to need a way to resolve those disputes.
Yeah.
So anytime there's a dispute between me and you, I'll be the judge.
Yeah.
So already, like, it's baked in, like, you can't, it has to be inherently unfair, in that the ruler class cannot be subject to its own laws. Whereas like a true like lawgiver, and this is like an idea in like Lon Fuller, who's like a legal history kind of scholar, it's the idea that a legitimate law giver has to be subject to his own laws.
Yeah.
Whereas in political power, the state, the nature of the state is such that that lawgiver is above that.
In Rome, what they did is they basically waited till you were out of office. So when you were no longer in office, then you had to face all your charges. They're like, but when you're in office,
well,
immune.
So think of the idea of like a biblical Egypt or whatever, where you've got like the Pharaoh, so to speak. And he's like the source of, like, he is the god, right? So he is like the source of
sovereignty.
Yeah. But one thing that's interesting about European kind of legal history, and I've a really good book by Fritz Kern about like constitutional law in the Middle Ages, like, and you don't really think of like constitutions back then, and the way kingship worked. But the thing that's interesting and unique about like kind of classical European kings and kingdoms and stuff is that there was this idea that there was the right to rebel. Like, that was kind of baked into the society. And the reason is because the ruler was not the source of the law, so to speak.
It was God.
The law was given and he was the enforcer. And insofar as he failed to do that, then he was not a legitimate lawgiver, where it's like, contrast that, where there's a standard outside of the system that applies to the whole system, versus someone in the system that decides which parts of the system apply to itself. So, and that's a big part of the anarchistic tendency within the West that makes the West the best.
Yeah. So I think I think that's an easy slam dunk for any political entity in Canada. Just like, look, if it's found to be unconstitutional, jail. It makes me think of there was a Curtis Yarvin. He was kind of talking about something. He said democracy is sort of like treating every citizen like an 8-year-old prince and entrusting their sovereignty to like these benefactors or like these people that'll manage the state or affairs until they're old and wise enough or capable enough to exert their sovereignty. And I thought that was a pretty good analysis of what democracy was, where you're basically entrusting your kingdom to like these evil, uncles who are just trying to like get at that throne, who want that power. And like you're saying, like,
So I gotta say though, like I think that's actually giving democracy way too much credit.
yeah,
Because if you think about this prince kind of situation, the people managing his estate are very often going to be part of the family. They're going to be inheritors of that estate to some degree, so they have an interest in kind of preserving the capital value of it.
we're all Canadians.
Whereas if it's just
we're all Canadians.
yeah, but there's no private property, right? Like I don't benefit from the capital value of Canada.
Oh, the kingdom
Like I
is
can't
yours.
put it in my pocket. The king can put it in his pocket. Like
Yeah.
he owns the country. So it would be like the prince would be better off. But you could make it more like our situation by saying there is no family. Say the whole family's dead and you put these managers in charge.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
just it's bureaucrats.
The state went into
like the chief
receivership.
minister.
Receivership.
So there's no like, Uncle Magnus to look out for the family value. It's like it's exactly what Trudeau and Jagmeet and the Kenneys and the Harpers and the Chrétiens and like the Obamas and the Trumps and the Clintons and the it's like the Democratic leader. They're there to plunder it as much for themselves while they're in power.
Yeah.
So
like a prince,
and they
prince
don't.
whose kingdom is gone.
They're
into
not trying to
receivership.
protect. Like they're even more disconnected from the types of people who would likely be managing, and often with corruption and deception and incompetence. But it makes a difference when it's like in the family. And like people in Ottawa might as well be from Mars.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about us. That's why they suck our blood out.
So in summation, we're voting for whoever implements the Alberta Sovereignty Act.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that debate unfolds, and it's only a few months like process long. So
who's Jason
October,
Kenney's stand-in again? Who's part of the dynasty?
I think the establishment choice is Travis Taze, who's got a little more like rural street cred, and probably is a little more Alberta friendly in his heart than Kenney. But he's kind of the establishment pick. The other one that's got the most kind of establishment support is Rebecca Schulz, who no one cares about. And then there was, of course, the leftist media brigade, who the one they wanted us to care a lot about was Michelle Rempel.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is such a big deal. And her like letter is like a devastating blow to the USP. And literally no one cares what she thinks.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care what we think either.
No,
this was like to get herself in the spotlight. She thought she'd be cool. She realized it was a total dead end. She had to ask a survey for what people cared about.
Yeah.
No one cares. So she has this hissy fit. She sends out a letter. It's like a subtle dig at like the intractable ones.
She thought about it and then asked people, and everyone said fuck off. And not only
They
that,
didn't even care enough to say it.
yeah.
Like no one cares. And come on, read the room, lady. You were on the Patrick Brown campaign.
People
And you're
hate
going to
him.
come out to Alberta and be like, you think you know what we want? Take a hike. Go back to Ottawa. You're an
Yeah.
Ottawa swamp monster. She's basically just got an incredibly safe seat
Don't
for federally. And like you could put Rachel Notley could go in there with a federal conservative label and they'd just vote for her automatically.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So she just gets to coast, basically, as far as I can tell.
She's a real. The last thing I saw her do was attempt to regulate nitrous oxide inhalants.
Yeah, like who cares? Like get over it. And so, but the media, because she took a dig, like, oh, like the right is so divided and like full of there's too many crazy people, not reasonable people. Like I'm trying to be the reasonable one, and I can't unify because there's too many wackos. So the media really wanted like us to care about her opinion,
Yeah.
like the lying corporate media. And Don Braid, he's like, this is a big deal. Literally, no one cares.
Yeah.
So she was the way Jean Carré is the like choice of the Globe and Mail, like
Yeah.
Toronto female liberal voter class, and we're supposed to care about him as the conservative candidate.
Yeah.
For that reason, the same way they want us to care about like Rempel.
Yeah, he exists only to make sure Polyev stays on his toes, in my opinion. But like, because if you can't trounce that guy, like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Well, he's
At
an interesting foil.
At the same time, who the fuck loses to Andrew Scheer?
Who lost to Andrew Scheer?
Maxime Bernier. People like him, but he got beat.
Well, they got bought out on the memberships.
Whatever. Care.
There's a lot of interesting conspiracy theories about that vote.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting conspiracy theories about the amount of
but
people
that's the
that
thing with
signed
those
up
preferential
with
ballots. That's what happens with those preferential ballots, right?
Yeah.
Because you can be the number one, but if you don't have a big enough gap on the number one, you're probably going to lose. Because the reason you're number one is because you've got like the 40%, like the plurality.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're the number one winner, but then everyone else falls out, and because you're probably the least terrible one in the sense of like kind of more of a Western perspective.
What if
everyone else converges on the second choice, and you get the Aaron O'Toole's and the Shears?
What if Quebecers want Charest more than they want Polyev? Do they? Is
Quebecers, they have a lot of influence in the party because they have like their votes are scored differently. It's weird.
Yeah. So what if?
Oh yeah, it could definitely happen. But but the thing is, his margin is so big that, or at least it seems.
But is it like? What do you know the exact ratio? Or like an inkling of the ratio? Is it like 2-1?
What are you debunking me?
No. I'm gonna debunk. No. What's the weighted value of a Quebecer vote?
Oh, it's crazy. I think I don't remember.
Double?
Have to look it up. No, I think it's like 8 times or something absurd.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Jesus Christ!
So it's like it's really rigged.
Another thing that you missed out on that other conversation with with Jay was the fact that the Smallies have a 0.5 system, where the smaller tribes only get half a vote.
8. We should implement that, except I'm not talking about the Canadians conservative. I'm talking about government employees.
That's exactly what I said.
Should get
half a vote.
No vote.
No.
But if you want to give them something half like 0.2.
Imagine they got what?
Unless you live in Ottawa, then you get 0.
So Polyev would have to have. So imagine everyone in Quebec voted for Jean Charest. Is there enough to stonewall Polyev?
I can't answer a question like that because I don't know how the math works.
8 times, goddamn, dude, that's gonna bug me.
It's ridiculous. I was trying to find the reference, and I don't want to like get sucked into like trying to debunk.
I'm gonna trust you
But
at your word. If
it's a lot, I think.
I thought it would be silly at double. You know what I mean?
No, it's really bizarre.
Is that a repercussion of the Reform Party?
Uh,
That sounds like it's
I don't know.
because
Maybe.
that stinks like, the Reform Party took over.
Yeah, it appears to be when the Canadian Alliance and Peace Progressive Conservative. It was Peter MacKay's idea. Remember him?
Oh, yeah. What a motherfucker.
So each riding. I don't want to read how this works while I'm doing this,
No,
but
do it.
no, there's because I don't have the exact description. There's a lot of fluff in this terrible link I pulled up.
It's okay.
But I can't find the calculation on this article, but it's out there.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
It exists. Dude, that's so my intuition that it's because the West rebelled against Canada at one point.
We will again.
Dude, I used to think
Alberta
Preston Manning was the
Sovereignty Act.
biggest bitch. And it wasn't until I realized what he had done and the way the seats shook out that I'm like, there's no fucking way that can ever happen again. Yeah.
A lot of these people show early signs of success, like typical socialist nut job projects, and then it all falls apart.
Yeah.
Like, look at Kenney. He was popular. He was really popular
Was
when
he?
he came in.
I barely remember.
Oh,
Dude,
they just annihilated the NDP, and everyone's like, yeah, Kenney. Yeah, go Kenney.
I don't think they were fired up. They were like,
Oh, yeah, I
fuck
think
you,
so.
Notley. They weren't like, yeah, Kenney. In the same way that no one's happy with Joe Biden. They just hate
No,
Donald
Kenney
Trump.
promised the world, man.
Yeah?
And people bought into it.
I don't know. At the same time, like you do have to rebuild that party. You had people like Danielle Smith and Brian Jean you're tearing us apart, Lisa. Tearing the province apart, and it all falls on your pudgy little shoulders. And you've got to drive around in this big old fucking truck talking about how much you love Alberta and doing weird belly dances in places and like trying to hide the fact that you're like a creature, like a federal creature.
Yeah, no more federal creatures.
Yeah, they got.
And Gene, he's a federal creature.
Yeah.
Kenney, federal creature. Danielle is not, but she's a media swamp creature, which itself is not good. And she's herself a political swamp creature.
Is Gene really?
But I think Danielle Smith might have reoriented positively in some sense because of the last couple years.
Yeah.
Even though like sometimes it's weird. Like a big thing is like, oh, why can't we get the Johnson vaccine? As if that's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Get over it.
I went out and got it for you.
Yeah, she was fighting like hard for it, and then I think they got it.
Yeah.
They approved it. She's like, yay! And then it got like pulled.
Oh, they're like, we can't give this to anyone under 30. And they're like, fuck.
So yeah,
but you only got to take it
major
once.
lapse in judgment.
You only got to take it once. Come on now.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's a real vaccine. Real V. But
do you think?
Yeah. So
do you think?
I don't know. These people are hard to understand. It's just interesting because you can't. The society's not ready for the revolution, so to speak. So it's not going to get fixed.
Yeah.
All you can do is kind of like. You just have to have some interest to see if you can like push it in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Ever so slightly, because you can't. Like, there has to be a bigger.
Political inertia's a motherfucker, dude.
Yeah. And the system has its own like kind of gravity to it, or just a natural way it moves, and it's just like a boulder rolling down a hill. Like, just has to work that way.
Yeah.
And we're all part of it. Like because of what we expect the government to do. Like, there's no big change. Like, we're disgusting, pathetic, depraved people, and we want the government to take care of us because we're. Like, hopeless.
Because we're princes.
No.
Yeah. We're princes.
So if you can just maybe muck up the system or move towards the divorce, because I think as the breakdown of the nation state continues, um because there's a lot of just like factors that are kind of part of that decline. And even though like empire is kind of like a constant in a corrupt world, so it'll come in kind of like the cycles. There will be the next stage of empire, but in this decline in the I don't know, decline of the nation state, people
I think
aren't good enough
yeah.
yet to choose the right alternative. So like the mistake has to keep repeating. And yeah, the best we can do is
Buckle up.
buckle up.
I don't think any of this changes until the first Terran Martian war. Then we see some real shit go down.
The great default will
Yeah.
be the moment of change
Think so?
when the welfare state collapses.
They'll just, they don't care.
No, it'll collapse. And that'll be a social upheaval.
Well, I don't know. I've been hearing that for like 30 fucking years, dude.
So it's going to take a long time to collapse.
Oh my God, just do it already. Trillion.
A lie can last a long time.
$3 trillion overnight repo lending. It'll be fine. No, I'm saying like once we get our Martian consortium.
There's no Martians though.
No, at some point we're gonna make another colony that is gonna not. It's like when America declares independence. At some point, that other colony is gonna want autonomy.
It's never gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Do you really think people will be living on Mars
in our lifetime? Maybe.
No, not in our lifetime. Like in the next 10,000 years.
Oh, it's inevitable.
No,
inevitable.
There's nothing there.
Doesn't matter. Dude, why are you climbing this mountain? There's nothing up there.
No, there is something up there.
There's nothing up there. That's the whitest shit I ever heard.
Everything's up there.
There's nothing up there.
No. You're just one of those leftist nature haters.
Okay, so
if you don't
I'm
get
outlining
the mountain,
your statement.
The mountain is like one of the deepest.
Okay, guess what Mars is?
It's not a mountain.
It's the mountain. No. Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yes. Dude, it's happening. And when that happens...
No, it's like the corpse of a demonic entity.
Bro.
It's not a mountain.
It's like...
It's dead. It's like the demonic world. In the Bible, why do you think the desert is associated with death and demons? Why do you think they send the goat in the Day of Atonement when they put put the sins onto the dirty or the unclean goat, or the one that like gets the bad draw? They send it out to the demon Azazel, and he's out in the desert. Mars is just a desert. It's a demonic.
Abrahamic
dimension.
Religions were obsessed
and you have
with
this
killing
materialist
goats.
conception that's like, oh, it's cool. It's like a planet.
No,
this is like a gateway to the underworld. It is a hell.
You don't understand.
It is not a place humans are going to be going.
Why would anyone climb a mountain?
The whole concept of it's like people cannot live there. It's like a square circle.
It doesn't matter. They will find a way.
No,
they must.
No, I'm telling you, it's impossible. It's like Tower of Babel. You can't get there. It's like,
look, man, it might fall. It might fall, but it's gonna get built. Okay.
No.
Okay. So here's why. Because for the same comparison for the desert being full of demons. If you look at all the old maritime maps, like, guess what's in the sea, dude?
Leviathan.
It's nothing but monsters. Like,
Leviathan.
You keep sailing that way, you die. And at some point, somebody was like, fuck that, I'm going. And it was romantic, and it was fucking crazy, and you could make your bones. And can you imagine owning half of fucking Mars? Because you went out there and put a fence around it? Fuck yeah, people are going to go there, dude. And at some point, those people who are in their little Covco are going to fucking have little provinces, and they're not going to want to deal with the British. They're going to say, get the fuck out of here. We're not giving you minerals and bullshit anymore.
There's nothing
After
on
we've
Mars.
taken all your stuff and you got to set up here, we're good now. We've moved out. Martian independence. It's going to happen.
It'll never happen. There's no economically viable way for people to live on Mars. And like space mining and stuff, like that's never
There's
gonna
nothing
happen.
at the top of a mountain either, dude. And it's gonna happen.
No, but there is. That's where the gods are.
What do you think's on Mars?
Look, in a lot of ancient people, gods lived in two places: gardens, because those were like perfect places, like abundance and beauty, and like kind of walled off from chaos and death, like the wilderness or the desert. And at the top of mountains, because it's like Mount Olympus. It's like inaccessible. It's like the most hardcore place.
Like Mars?
No, that's not a mountain. That's a gateway to the